Hello, good evening to all. I, Ashutosh Kumar Dubey, welcome you all at 23rd World Education Summit. And this is the last session of the summit. This is the third day. And we have very interesting topic here. So topic is designing stage for effective global academia collaboration for future workforce and study abroad. And we have very eminent panelists here. So first of all, I will introduce Anita Sharma, Principal CP Goenka International School. Uh, so she will moderate the session. Welcome to the summit, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashutosh.
And we have Harish Medapalli, Executive Director, PV's Public School, Nilambur, Kerala. Welcome to the summit, sir.
Yes, thank you, Sugos. Thank you.
So our next panelist, Dr. Neeta Bali, Principal and Head of School, GD Goenka World School, Gurgaon. Thanks for
Thank you.
coming us.
Thank you, Ashutosh.
And now the last panelist for today's session, Dr. Rajni Krishna Swami, Director, Dosti Foundation School, Mumbai. Welcome to the
Thank you,
summit, ma'am.
Ashutosh. Thank you, Ashutosh.
So now I will hand over this session to Anita Sharma, Principal CP Goenka International School for moderation.
Thank you, Ashutosh. A very good evening to all present here and to the entire audience on the other end who are here along with us at the end of the day and the third day of the education summit along with the last panel. I'm sure the entire seeping in of information would have been a very enriching journey all this while. And as mentioned by Ashutosh, we have the topic for panel discussion, which is designing the stage for global academia collaborating to make the workforce for future and to allow the studies for all the levels that we are expecting into education. So as we have first and foremost a hearty welcome to Dr. Neeta, Dr. Ranjani, and Mr. Harris for being here on the panel and moving forward to take up the very first question with respect to 2 minutes each allocation. And the point of discussion or the deliberation that I would like to take forward here is with how can technology, transformation, and learning assist in future studies and career. We would like to go with an order of Dr. Neetaji first, Dr. Ranjani, and Mr. Harris. So over to you, Neetaji.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you. Very relevant question. The last 2 years have proven very clearly. During the pandemic, the last 2 years have proven very clearly that we are at a point of no return and that technology is here and here to stay. Technology is an integral, inseparable part of our lives. Technology has enriched our lives. Technology has also led to addiction to the screen, causing extensive screen time, and consequently, children suffering, adults suffering, and of course, the virtual fatigue, which I have been writing about, and ways to manage virtual fatigue. But having said that, one, let me tell you that integration of technology in education is essential now. We have realized that the levels of learning have gone up by many notches because of access to excellent resources, which we have been able to access through technology. Two, I'm not just talking about the educational resources, I'm also talking about the human resource, because you can have access to the best of teachers who may be sitting across the other side of the globe and teaching you, and you are able to take advantage of their expertise. Three, it has completely killed the commute time that you would be spending on roads going from one place to another, whether it's to a college or to a school. And particularly for those who have been aspiring to go abroad, since this is one of the things, I don't know how we are going to relate this, but let me just tell you, as a mother also, I realize that everything is happening online. So when you're filling out the forms, majority of the people who wish to go abroad are filling out their forms online. All embassies, all consulates are working online, making lives easier for people. So, and that much faster. The processes are that much faster. So I think for those who are also going abroad to fill out a form for a college, to receive acceptance from a college, to work at your study permit, to work at your visa, all at the click of a button, all online. And it's that much faster, as I said. So life definitely, in that sense, has become easier. But a very, very serious loss has been the fact that it has led to a whole host of emotional turbulence and emotional problem because of lack of human connect. So where we can see the pros, you cannot ignore the cons. The cons are not now, the cons are starting to emerge and hurt. As an educator and a principal, I know that the cons are now starting to hurt when parents come back to us and say that the regimen is completely spoiled. My child is in depression. My child needs one more year to go back to normalcy. So we are beginning to face all of that. So I would say technology has taken us far. But like everything, you have two sides to a coin, and I think we need to look at both sides of the coin. I hope that helps, Anita.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we talk about technology, possibly in connect to what you just mentioned, Neetaji, this is the only change that every individual has to live up to. But probably the better prospect or the pros of technology transformation is something that we can keep in mind. Moving on to Ranjani, Miss, would you like to throw light upon this?
Yes, okay. Uh, Continuing from where Dr. Bali said, teaching has happened. There has been a 360-degree shift, all right. But how much of learning has actually happened, one is not very sure. Because all of us are familiar. Children have said they've logged on. It's the easiest thing to do, log on. I'm having trouble with my camera, switch off the camera, and there you're off. So have they really been physically, mentally, emotionally present is a totally different ballgame altogether. Yes, for the motivated learner, nothing like this. Because such people will think of, as she said, we've saved so much of time. So you'll think of that much time to put back into the learning process and to add to your, other dimension. But again, this serious emotional disconnect, social disconnect is going to have a lot of problem. Because the other day, I must tell you, very interesting, I was having dinner with somebody and this person said, hey, give me a minute, I want to say good night to my daughter. And I assumed that he would go to the next room, kiss his daughter good night. All he did was take out his phone and he just sends a good night message to her when, even as we are having dinner. And believe me, this was a house in Bombay, a 2-bedroom flat, not like your huge houses in Delhi and other places where you have to walk, at least about 30, 40 steps. So where have we actually reached? So technology, slowly but surely, despite being a friend, we have allowed it to dominate our lives to such an extent that the human connect has been lost. And this, I'm afraid, seriously, seriously afraid as to what is going to happen. Today, all right, you and I are still people who are not totally natives of the technological world, okay? Our children, we are still migrants. Our children being natives to this technological world, what is going to happen to their children sometime later? I don't know. So this saving time, saving expertise, being able to get information at the drop of a click, all that is excellent. But what happens when I don't understand? Again, filling, now for example, I want to fill in my form. My passport has to be renewed. My visa has to be renewed. I still need someone to help me because not all drop-down boxes are always the right thing. There are things that don't fit into yes, no, or whatever. Then what happens? So then you call up that very friendly help toll number. You are on hold. Please press 1. Please press 2. So I wonder really, I mean, I'm not anti-technology. I have benefited, I've learned so much, but I wonder where it will all take up. Because remember, we are preparing children for a future that neither you nor I nor they know what it's all about. So I guess the best thing is to be optimistic and to go with the flow, as it were. At least that's what I'm doing. Thank you.
So truly said. Your closing note when you mentioned that we all need to be very optimistic. As our question states, while we are discussing on this particular point, that transformation which is extremely evident, and learning which you just cannot rule out, learning of the technology. And while you mentioned about being the natives, yes, it's definitely a concern that the present generation is the native of technology, but I'm sure they are going to grip back. With your expressions, Dr. Ranjani, what I realize and understand, that technology has to be strengthened in terms of physical presence, so that while anybody takes up filling up the form or interacting or communicating or corresponding, it becomes not a hazardous or a difficult job or a
Yes.
challenging job. It should be smooth going.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
yes,
Thank
thank you,
you.
thank you. Moving to Mr. Harris, would you like to take up your opening note for the same question?
Uh, if I'm talking about the same question, as the two other panelists discussed, definitely it is seen in these 2 years a drastic change in the technological innovations, and we are compelled to be part of it. And one of the solutions, and as ma'am said earlier, learning is happening on the intellectual level, or the logical part, or the physical part, but the emotional connect which we are losing, which is the hardcore of learning or the education actually. So what is education? If you are looking to the definitions of all definitions of education, it says about empowering man, or finding out the best in a person. So this will happen only through emotional connect, or the emotional part. So the best solution, as we discussed earlier, for this time is we're coming up with the hybrid mode, where we will unite, or we will collaborate both the technological or digital platforms, and also we'll try to bring emotional, physical, and social connect within. So this will be the best model of the time and the call of the hour, in order to address the cons of the technological innovations. Along with, we have, when we are talking about preparing students for future ready, so here comes the role of automation and digitalization in the global job market. We know that, and it is said that by 2030, almost 49 or 45 to 50% of the jobs will be automated, especially
Yeah.
by the developments in artificial intelligence, AI. So education should be our learning process should be ready to equip our children to meet the challenges of future, so that they can be the brighter citizens in the newly digitalized world.
Absolutely. So rightly said, so rightly said. Thus, in order to come to the conclude, to the sum up of this deliberation, how can technology transformation and learning assist in future studies and career? Our remarkable panelists have here made up a point of empowering mankind with best assistance to technology could be one of the aspects which will take care. Second could be the cons, where we see that emotionally, socially, and physically, we need to ensure that whether it's a hybrid model or it's a virtual model, the children are developing, they are learning senses in all these three aspects of their development. And the third and the most important would be that we are trying to make sure to have the social emotional bond along with the intellectual ability of the child developing with the help of the technology, to ensure that this particular platform is no more a curse but it's a boon to each individual, to live up to the standards of 2030 as mentioned, that we are all going to make 80% of use for the technology. Moving forward with the second deliberation here, uh, So we all know that the competence, as we say, that it's one world, one family. And when we say one world, one family, we are talking about globally associated and connected with variety and variations in thought processes, you say, in culture, you say, or in the kind of correspondence that we make. So while we come to a global platform, the competence level is extremely high, and it is challenging. Having said that, the understanding of the global platform also is something which influences the interaction of a particular learner when they present themselves to any of the countries. So whether it is about admissions, whether it is about further studies, or it is about workforce. So my deliberation here to all our respectable panelists is, how can global competence and global understanding be assessed for the future workforce to make it effective? Over to Neetaji, if you could throw some light of importance to us.
Thank you, Anita. Another very, very relevant question. Um, Definitely, online learning in the education has brought in very, very dramatic changes, leading to e-learning platforms. A lot of e-learning platforms. Now, when these e-learning platforms evolve, a lot of research goes into evolving these e-learning platforms. And I'm sure, whenever we come across somebody who's talking about an e-learning platform, he or she is always talking about how do we assess the levels of competency, or the levels of learning. So that is inherent, when we talk about assessment, that is absolutely inherent. And the other thing is, when we talk about assessment, in today's world, we do not talk about retention of knowledge. We do not talk about rote learning, and we do not talk about regurgitation in an examination. Everyone is speaking about skills. So, what are the skills that somebody has been able to learn through content, which is a means to an end? So, retention of knowledge, simple retention of knowledge is not good enough. The application of what you have retained, the analysis of what you have retained, and final application and actualization in real life, by using the skills that you have cultivated while you're learning what you're learning through these e-learning platforms. So I think there, um, e-learning and innovation and technology have, in online teaching learning, has gone a long way in helping the learners. Two, I feel that, as I said when I was speaking earlier, it enables the teachers to reach out to students very efficiently and effectively through various modes of communication. When I talk about various modes of communication, various creative modes of communication, which are probably not so available when we were using the chalk and talk method. So traditional offline learning, it's only a handful of teachers who are very driven. They are the ones who are going to ferret out these technology tools and use them in the classrooms. Not everybody will do it. But when, during this time of the pandemic, perforce, everybody was had to rake up their creativity. One, to survive. Two, to
Yes,
sustain the interest. Ranjani is having a laugh. One, to survive. No, Ranjani, at least the older ones.
absolutely.
Yeah, the older teachers who were always so averse to technology, overnight, everybody had learned so much because it is a matter of survival, right? So not merely that, to sustain the interest, because when Ranjani ji was speaking, I was nodding in consent. You log in, and then you turn off your camera, and then you vamoose. So you have those problems also. But having said that, in spite of its own set of challenges, the online educational model, particularly in schools like ours, I find they're very, very dynamic. They're very interesting, they're very dynamic, they're very interactive, and they're very student centric. And since I'm using that cliched line that children are digital natives, so
Yes.
they took to it like fish to water, right? So the only thing is, you have to apply an extra effort to humanize the learning process.
Yes.
We have to resolve this. We just have to humanize that learning process. You just have to connect and you have to communicate. You have to listen so that they can vent. And you know, Anita, very often I tell my teachers, listen to their nonsense and they'll listen to your sense.
So true.
Right?
But that's the best
Thank you.
strategy, I should say. That's the
Yes,
best strategy.
yes,
I think
absolutely.
we all as human would always want to be heard with all our emotions, and probably as rightly mentioned Neetaji, with respect to the mode of creative communication, it's not only communication. The creative communication can really help you to assess and to assess the kind of workforce that is required in future.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Uh, thank,
absolutely.
yes, thank you so much. Now over to Dr. Ranjani. If you could take and
Yeah. Okay.
let us know the importance of why is it has to be assessed.
Okay. Uh, A, why do we go to school? Why do we go to a college? At the end of the day, it is about adding a new dimension to your personality and to come out of the portals of this learning institution a little better, a little more transformed than what you have been when you walked in. Okay? All of us. And education is aspirational. Every single person around the place believes that education is perhaps the only tool that empowers and liberates and helps a person to attain what they want to attain. For example, when schools were going on, there was this change. You had the vernacular medium schools and the English medium schools came. English was seen as a language of the world. So they all moved to that. Then they moved into the CBSE schools, ICSE schools, international schools. Because at the end of the day, every one of us is on an aspirational path. And rightly so, nothing wrong with that. Okay? But with the pandemic, we realized one thing, that only those with the means were able to score, were able to attend school. Because there were so many people who didn't have smartphones, laptops. They lived in areas where there was no internet connectivity. So overnight, schools had to modify themselves, ensure that there was Wi-Fi brought in, extra thing, and they provided their schools with their teachers with laptops. My maid, believe me, she said to me, don't call me on my phone for anything because my son is taking the cell phone to his school. So everyone, and then we've read from the WhatsApp University stories of children climbing on top of a tree, going on top of a hill just to get a range over there so that they could study. So it is also to us separated to a limited extent the self-motivated people and those who do it because it's there or because they just have it. Okay. But having said all that, I believe we have come out stronger from this entire process. I know even old teachers, people of my generation, have said, okay, this is what we have to do, so we'll do it. And they have learned. And the younger ones have been so good. They have helped out. The younger teachers have helped the older teachers cope with the whole thing. There are some teachers who know they are very technologically savvy, and some of us are challenged to that extent. But they realize that this is something, we're all in it together, so let me help. And it was so beautiful to see. And in schools, I'm sure many principals and others have done this too. You pair a younger teacher with a more experienced teacher who's perhaps not as tech savvy, and they now, how do they go ahead? What is the competency that you really need to do? One thing, I was at a seminar the other day. I had people participating from Afghanistan, Indonesia, Canada. Timing zones were all odd. I had to sit up at 2 o'clock in the night just because I wanted to be part of that. But having said that, it was so interesting because technology has enabled us to meet on a common platform and realize that the pandemic was same for everybody. Nobody was spared. And you realize that under the skin, our hopes, our aspirations, our dreams, our challenges are all the same. And once you realize that, everything else falls into place. No one is superior, no one is inferior. We're all people facing the same set of challenges. A mother is a mother, a teacher is a teacher, a principal is a principal, wherever, whichever part of the globe he or she is. And what are we doing? We're preparing children for the future. Children who, some of them who are very challenged, some who are very motivated, and some who are okay, chalega kind of a thing. So we realize that the world, to use a cliche, is a global village. But there are several organizations. I don't know how many of you have heard of what is called the Global Scholars. The Global Scholars is a distance education linked platform set up by the Bloomberg Philanthropies. And here, what I like about it is it's specially meant for middle school children and upper primary children. Because invariably, most of our learning platforms are for senior school children, you know. So here you have children in the age group 9 to 11. And there is a common theme given to them. And all children all over the globe, irrespective of where you are, you become a member, you learn, and you post. For example, if you're talking about street food, I call it vada pav, somebody else calls it hamburgers, somebody calls it hot dogs. And you write about this, where it is found, how you make it. You have a demonstration lesson. And, you know, then the whole teaching learning process is so wonderful, you know. And I believe this is going to be the way of the future. We are going to log on with, you know, have projects. Earlier we had children in groups of 6 working on a project. Now we will have children of 6, but in 6 different countries, working on a similar project and sharing their findings.
So true, so true. And still they align to the project that has been provisioned to them. They'll be able to come. So what I understand, Ranjani ji, if we are talking about the future workforce, a very classic example that we all teachers have gone through, we all mentors have gone through in the pandemic 2020 while we were supposed to get into pandemic. So the workforce was the platform of teaching children for the first time virtually, not knowing the tenure, the duration that we are going to continuously doing that. Having said that, I think most of us bounced back in the month of June and April, possibly for some. Yes. But within those 2 months of time, the kind of competency level that the teachers have picked up smartly, deliberately, and effectively, and they understood the level that is expected from them for teaching the concept as good as in a physical setup. So possibly there is no chance of assessing the workforce, the assessing the competency, or assessing the understanding level of anybody. It's only about cross culture, cross communication, and ensuring that you live up to it. That's what you made a point here.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, Ranjani ji. And over to Mr. Harris, if we could have you throwing some light and importance on this particular deliberation that we have.
So about when we are talking about global competency and the assessment of global competence, we can say that what global competence assesses, it measures actually the student's capacity to examine the local, global, and intercultural issues, to engage in an open and appropriate way and in effective interactions with people from different cultures, different part of the world, and to act as a collective well-being for a sustainable development. That is what the global competency or the global competence measures. So it's actually the global competence is actually it's a multidimensional construct or multicultural construct that requires a combination of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values which are successfully applied into a global issue or a intercultural situations. Global issues means that that refers to the things that are affecting the people who have a deeper implication in the current and future generation, as we rightly said about the changes what happened soon after the pandemic. And the intercultural situation refers to face-to-face, virtual, and mediator encounters with people who are perceived to be from the different cultural background. As ma'am rightly said before that, having a seminar, people from Afghanistan, Indonesia, Canada, and irrespective of the time cycle or the time frame, people are united together for a better and futuristic prospects. So this is what the global developing global competence is a lifelong process, but it is on that education can shape the students for that.
Very well said, Mr. Harris, and very effective point raised over here when we are talking about acclaiming ourselves globally, connecting ourselves globally, ensuring that we learn the cross culture, and also standing our self independently and confidently to meet up the world's requirement. So if I have to sum up the deliberation over here with respect to the prospect of global competence and global understanding, in order to assess the future workforce, our respectable panelists have put up these three very important points to really ponder upon by every educationist. Is to retention of knowledge is not enough, but application is important, and humanizing the learning process by Dr. Ranjani is what we have come across. And moving forward, adding a new dimension to a personality, education is the only tool to empower, liberate the mankind. And lastly, to assess the student capacity in different culture and act as a collective effort to make a sound global collaboration for future workforce and study across the globe. Moving forward to the third deliberation here, what teaching strategies? So we all have been understanding about the pedagogy. We are trying to revamp, revise, revisit, ensure that the teaching becomes student centric and it's no more teacher centric, right? And that is how the role of activities, project based learning has come into picture. Now we are looking forward to have a global collaborative effort to ensure that future workforce also remains intact. Having said that, we also understand about how can children have optimized help and support to study abroad. So keeping that in mind, the third deliberation that I would like to make over here is that what teaching strategy activities can be used to promote, enhance global competence for study abroad opportunities. May I have Neeta ji going ahead with this deliberation?
Yeah, thank you, Anita. First, I think let us segregate the two questions. If we talk about using the new technologies, first, I think collaborating with new educational allies across the world. That is very important. If
Absolutely.
you wish to study abroad, you need to begin now. So,
Yes.
developing relationships with people and educational allies across the world, so that you're able to determine what is it that looks attracted to you to study, what is it that you that looks interesting to you to study, what are the entry requirements, getting in touch with the universities online, communicating with universities online, um, eliciting support from counselors, networking. I think networking across the world is one of the most effective ways of creating strong bonds with, by joining maybe professional internships as well. Before you get into the workforce, it is important that you join some professional internships, which will give you a feel of the work that you may want to do in the future, because these internships will help you to um, interact with the kind of professionals that you are likely to be working with. So these internships can be chosen with care, and can be done with the universities, can be done with professional bodies, can be done uh, in professional setups, because they're great learning experiences, because they empower you with the skills that are needed to perform the tasks that are specific to your careers or the courses that you intend to follow when you go overseas to study. Having said that, the second part, because I think the two questions are completely separate. The second part is, how do you enrich your teaching learning? You have to use, and I think all of us are doing that, you have to use new tools now. And all of us have learned to invest on education, which is digitized teaching, learning, training techniques, a more inclusive learning model, uh, you know, aligning yourselves with social welfare organizations to help engage students, the parents, using tools, I would say, and that we've been doing extensively in our school, particularly. Um, tools like online quizzes, tools like Seesaw, Edpuzzle, Canva, Jambo board. All teachers are now talking about it. All children are familiar. And I think these facilitate quick and smooth learning. Um, and of course, using all these tools will also help with collaborative work. Again, helping you to build connections. And when I say connections, as a school, as an international school, let me give you one example. Um, in fact, during the pandemic, we found that engaging children in collaborative work with children of other countries and even other continents. For example, we're working with an organization called GCEI, which is an international organization. So our children are working with children of 5 other continents on a common problem, and the common problem is depletion of the groundwater table. So we are focusing on, based in Gurgaon, we are focusing on the depletion of water table in the Aravalli region. And we are speaking and collaborating with students from 5 other continents who have a completely different lifestyle, but a common problem. So I think it has been able to bring people together. As Ranjani ji said, uh, beneath the surface, I found that so beautiful. Beneath the surface, all of us seem to be living with the same issues, the same problems, the same emotions, same apprehensions, same fears. And we're all in this together, right?
Yes.
We're all in this together. When you get that feeling, we're all in this together. And I think that that feeling gives you a lot of strength, that you're not alone in this struggle. We're all in this together. Uh, so I thought these are the 2 ways we could differentiate. I mean, with networking, that's one. If you wish to go abroad, internships, getting in touch with universities, preempting the experiences that you're likely to have in those universities. And second, of course, using the teaching tools. Third, collaborations across borders. I mean, those borders are now really starting to blur. Earlier, when we spoke about global citizenship, it sounded very cliched, but today, if you speak to kids and the kind of projects that children are involved in, I'm sure even in your school, all schools for that matter,
Yes.
children are truly behaving and conducting themselves as global citizens today and are looking for opportunities. And when they realize that sitting here in India, my counterpart in Africa is facing the same problems, it not just takes up their self-confidence up by many notches. It takes away a lot of, it helps to clear the clouds that looms large over their heads. So it helps. It helps.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
So wisely mentioned, Dr. Neetaji. And I believe what you meant to say over here was with respect to the students. While the students connect globally, the teachers also have a global access wherein they can exchange and share their knowledge and information, which can in turn help them to have beautiful teaching strategies, which will improve and enhance the competency level of the students. And while they look forward to study abroad, possibly the networking and the connection that you develop with international universities is something which will help them out. Yes. So wonderfully made a point over here. And Dr. Ranjani ji, if we could have you
Yeah.
speaking on the same deliberation.
Yeah, okay. You know what? In the earlier days, when I was a child, we had pen friends. We used to write to them because we didn't know anything about what the other country was like, what they were doing. And their letters used to describe their life over there, and we would try. So we knew about one another. And we realized that, okay, when they go to school, they have to wear snow boots in some parts of the year. And while we wore, jackets and shawls, and we went, things like that. Today, however, as I mentioned earlier, you have these little global portals where partnerships happen. I mentioned the Global Scholars earlier. That is for the junior children. Then you have the UMind. There are many others. I only mentioned these two because I'm personally acquainted and involved with these. Now, the children are talking to each other at right from the fourth, fifth standard, and then to the highest level. They learn, they maintain diaries, they maintain documents, and they share information. And they're telling them, okay, what do you do after school? What is the kind of course you want to study? They tell them, okay, suppose I want to come to Amsterdam and I want to study. What is it that I have to do? So they get a student's perspective. And this, believe, is very important because children are constantly being talked to by their parents. You must do this, you must do that. This is what is there. And if they have gone abroad, say some 20 years ago or 30 years ago, they'll tell them, Tabhi aisa tha, vaisa tha, dekho, and all that. But now they learn what is happening in the present, number one. Number two, as Neeta very correctly pointed out about these internships, it's happening. Even as we are talking, there is some child who's interning with a small, maybe only a 15-day, 20-day internship. Instead of going there physically, they're sitting there and they're talking about what to do with the car factory in Toyota, how do they fix it on, or if you're talking about some other thing happening elsewhere in Africa, Zambia, whatever. Now, this gives the children a true perspective of what is happening. And whether you're an international school or you're a national school or even a state board school, teachers, I believe all teachers genuinely are open-minded. We need to be, if we are not, more flexible, more innovative, and open to new ideas. Because we realize, as I said earlier, we are preparing children for a future that I don't know anything about, the children don't know anything about. So it's like the blind man, the one-eyed man leading the kingdom of the blind, But having said all that, because of the exposure to so much of technology and know-how from other parts of the world, I believe children are very receptive to what has to be done. So they know, okay, this is what I have to learn, this pattern. If I've learned this, this will be my next step. And then they know whom to contact. When my son went abroad many years ago, I was wondering what he would do, how he would manage. So when I told him, I said, do you think we should ask someone to come and fetch you? He says, no need. There is an alumni association that is there. They will be sending somebody to pick us up. All people from, say, Mumbai are being picked up by this person, and they'll take care of things. I mean, he was all of 21, and I was anxious, what to do. But they settled so well. So today, I believe, we don't give children as much credit as we should. They know exactly what they want and how to do. And again, because technology is their friend, they use it truly and more effectively. I don't know if I've managed to, what we are really discussing. I hope I've kind of thrown some more light on that.
Yes. Dr. Ranjani ji, you have definitely thrown a light upon the teaching strategy, the first part of our deliberation, wherein you mentioned about pen friends, So now it's not postal though, but definitely
Yes.
there are cross communication which is happening between the teachers and the students to understand their culture. Maybe it could be a social media and the platform of Instagram and the Facebook and all that is available for the kids. But somewhere, even if they are not intellectually connected or connected, but they are definitely socially connected, which brings in the strategies which the teachers also can imply into their daily teaching to ensure that effectiveness is way more taken care about. Which in turn, when you mentioned about the cross culture, so having a pen friend, which is ensuring that there is a cross culture. Having said that, they know and they exchange and they discuss about what kind of career opportunities are they intending to take up in future. And then there comes the connectivity about, if I am expressing about what is that I need and what is that I look forward for my career in future, probably one of my friends to whom I'm writing in could throw some more importance or some more knowledge or information about the same. So definitely
Absolutely.
we are again trying to connect that yes, the students can study abroad with open opportunities which is available in an avenue, and they can really now grow out of their village and see a forthcoming future for them which is more brighter and more promising.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's a wonderful point put up by you, Dr. Anjani ji. Moving forward to Mr. Harris, would you like to take up some points over here to discuss with this deliberation?
So, as discussed with my two other fellow panelists, this relationship or the networking and relationship is a key point when the students are getting prepared for a study abroad or foreign education. And it become very easy right now. And earlier, we know that when we were thinking about foreign education or a study abroad, we were thinking about a consultant, and we were deeply connected with students who have to connect with a consultant and to believe what the consultant says about the university or a college or the program by which they are offered. Right now, because of this connectivity and relationship avenues, students have opportunities to understand what each university demands from a student, and what is the study environment or the learning environment over there, and what is the culture of the organization or the culture of the university, and how I have to get prepared for that. So writing the SOPs, statements of purpose, or and uh, and describing why I am selecting such a university or such a country for my future education, so that the students can very easily understand what the university demands, and even there are avenues and possibilities for the students to get connected with the professors or the tutors who are available in the particular university, and to understand what is the teaching learning style and process over there. So this is one of the bigger opportunity what this time has produced for our younger generation to get prepared for their study abroad aspirations. And talking about the internship, we know that our new national education policy is highly asking for starting these internship programs even in lower means middle school level itself. So getting opportunity to do internship even in the secondary or senior secondary time will definitely make them to shape their future and to understand what they are going to do when they are entering the global job market once their studies are over. So this is a quite interesting and quite important thing. And as Nida ji said, the thing is that getting our teachers also to be prepared and to be open for making our children to think loudly about foreign opportunities also is also a great point which we have to discuss over here. So equipping our teacher fraternity, our teacher community, in order to make our children ready for the global learning avenues is a crucial part which we have to focus if we are very seriously thinking about making avenues for our student for study abroad opportunities.
Very, very well connected, Mr. Harris. We did not pick up this point, but so relevantly put up that NEP has come up with skill development programs and vocational courses for the children under electives, which is going
Yes.
to ensure that the exposure through internship is provisioned right from age 12 to 12, age 13, which is going
That's
to
right.
make them all the more confident. So,
Yes.
yes, I think this deliberation can fruitfully be summed up with all the remarks made by our respectable panelists over here by collaborating with international university and Elise across the globe, which Dr. Anita ji did mention about. And it is so important for we as schools to definitely collaborate and get to understand through their counselors about what are the opportunities open and available for our children. So once they have completed their 10th and 12th with us at any level and with whichever board across, at least they have a wonderful first hand information with them. And going forward, networking and internship and exchange programs can be very effectively imbibed into the school curriculum for the learners to come forward and understand what kind of future workforce is there out in the world for them to make a choice within. Moving forward, as Dr. Ranjani did mention about the pen friends, which is now moved on to a social platform where they do connect at the click of the button. But I'm sure it must be very intellectually connected as well as socially connected for children to develop their confidence and information. Preparing the children for a future which is uncertain is also one of the points that we all discussed just now. But we are very confident that we are into the field of education, and thus we are the people who will pave the path for our learners and curate it very thoughtfully so that the next generation becomes not only successful, but they are physically, emotionally, and socially connected and grounded in the world where they live in. And last but not the least, where we mentioned about relationship avenues have widened for accommodating the diversity, not only in the culture but even in the kind of future careers that we have not foreseen yet. Nobody knew that IT is going to bloom like this, and possibly the people in IT are going to, mint money out of the kind of profession that they are choosing into. Yes, so I'm sure with all this sum up of today's deliberations across all the three questions that we have posed has brought us to this nutshell understanding that technology is important, transforming our leadership ability, transforming our teaching ability for children to have a better workforce and study is extremely important, and it lies on the lap of the educationists. And probably we stand to be the backbone of the society. And the way we have taken up in the pandemic to move from a physical to a virtual platform without a second question or without a second thought about, probably we remain confident and we move forward for a better future that we prepare in. With this note, I would like to take a conclude of this panel discussion, and over to Ashutosh ji.
Hi, ma'am. It's a wonderful session, well moderated by you, and I really thanks all of you for this wonderful session. So now it's time for speaker certificate presentation. So Rajeshwari, yes. So this is for Anita Sarma, ma'am, Principal CP Goenka International School. Thanks for coming and joining to us, ma'am. This
Thank
is
you
for
so much.
Ranjani Krishnaswamy, ma'am, Director, Dosti Foundation School, Mumbai.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming, ma'am.
Welcome.
And this is for Harish Medapalli, sir, Executive Director, Privis Public School, Nilambur, Kerala. Thanks for coming and joining to us, sir. And the last one is for Dr. Neeta Bali, Principal and Head of Schools, GD Goenka World School, Gurgaon.
Thank you
Thanks for
so
coming,
much,
ma'am.
Ashutosh. Yeah.
So with this, we are ending this 3 days of World Education Summit, and now we will have award ceremony. So where we are felicitating schools and tech companies who are giving their tools and services to the education sector. So we'll start by 6 a.m. You may all can join this session
Thank you. Thank
as
you.
a delegate.
Thank you.
Thank you so
That
much.
was
Thank you,
an
and everyone
yes.
take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Namaste to all.
Bye bye.
Namaste.
Thank you.